Howdy, folks. How you doing? It's your favorite herbalist here, Khabir, and we got a really interesting subject here today on my podcast. I'm happy to share with you called Caring for Your Pet Without Going to the Vet. Even rhymes. So we're going to cover 4 things today. We're going to cover how to diagnose health problems with your pet, how food feeding, and nutrition, and then being ready for health problems. Now, first of all, I'll just let you know a little bit about my history of caring for pets. I just asked my mom how old I was when I had my first pet, and she says I was born and they had cats and dogs. And I had my first own cat at 7, and I also had rats and snakes and frogs and fish when I was a child. And we did have an owl at one time in the family. And now I live on a ranch in southern Texas, and I have over 50 animals. In fact, I don't even know how many I have because I think right now I have more than 10 cats, even though I'm giving them away because they kept breeding. I had one litter with 4. I thought no problem. I gave away 3 or 4. I kept 1. Then I had another litter of 9. I was a little worried because the mother, of course, only has 8 nipples. So I was ready to nurse and with a little bottle in case needed, but they all made it. And we had another litter with 4. Those grew up again. And now we have another litter of 3. But meanwhile, I've been giving away cats to everybody, even the patients who show up here. I joke and I say, okay, today, you lucky folks, you get no discounts, but you get a free kitten. Hasn't worked all the time, but when I go shopping, I take baby cats with me, and I give them away. So I'm not sure how many I have, but it's around 10 cats. And also, of course, I've got a lot of other animals. I've got, let's see here. I got some photos here for you. I have my horse, which hopefully he shows up in the back, and because he's a superstar, all the neighbors love him. I can see part of him there. But here you go. There's one of I think that was the first litter right there. There's my chickens. I've got 9 hens and 1 rooster. And I've got 2 of the chickens I brought from California. My favorite chickens, 1 black and white one and 1 red one, Rhodesian red. And then I brought 5 ducks from California. Still doing good. There's me and my horse right there on my ranch. Nice photo. That's me in my garden. It's my front yard with the horse in the front yard. So you can see that horse. He's grazing there. And there is the turtle that lives in the little pond. So it's over 50 animals, I believe. So, because 10 cats, 10 chickens, 5 ducks, 1 horse, and 1 dog. Cena, he's right here. If I call his name, he'd jump right up here. Shepherd Collie. Now, the horse is over 20 years old. And the dog's 6. And I've had some of those chickens, well, for 5-6 years. I mean, the ducks, 5 or 6 years, because I brought them from California. And I got just 2 cats when I moved here, but they were both female and they both got pregnant. So we just kept going. So anyway, I've been raising cats and dogs for pretty much my entire life. And I have my horse now about 19 years, because he was a couple years old when I had him. And I've never taken him to the vet. There's the horse. There's Sam, the famous Arab. He's over 20 years old. I think he's about 20, maybe 20, 21. There we go. He just walked by. So he's out there grazing. He's walking back and forth, I think, from his water to his field in the front. He's got like a little pasture in the front where he grazes. Then he goes back and forth and back and forth. He eats grass in the front, and then he comes in the back. So anyway, now you can hear that noise in the background. That's the cats hissing at each other and the dog intervening because he doesn't like to see the cats fighting. Many people say they don't want a cat because they have a dog. And I have this German Shepherd collie who's a real killer. I mean, he can kill raccoons, and but he loves the kittens. They chase his tail, they walk under his legs, and it's all a matter of training. It's just like if you got misbehaving animals, that bark too much or beg. You should never let an animal beg. It's all goes back to the owner. It's all the owner's responsibility, just like with children, and same for dogs. And cats are a little trickier to train, but they are trainable with a water bottle and repeating. A dog, of course, is much easier. But okay, so let's go back to our subject there of covering our 4 topics. 1, diagnosis. 2, diet. 3, nutrition. And 4, being ready for health problems. So when it comes to diet, this is really, we're going to do diagnosis first. That's right. Most people see me as a master herbalist, but in fact, you could be a very good herbalist. And if you don't have good diagnostic skills, then it doesn't matter how many herbs you have, herbal formulas you have, or how good of an herbalist you are. You have to have the good diagnostic skills. And that's the beauty of Ayurveda, because there's a great emphasis and a very sophisticated system of diagnosis. And that definitely helps me a lot in diagnosing the health of my pets. So for most of these pets, chickens are a little different. Birds are a little trickier. But I forgot, I have 2 doves too. 2 doves. That's right. And not easy to keep these animals going in the winter and in the summer. In the winter, I have to have heat lamps to control temperature. In the summer, I have to have misters. So it's a lot trickier in this extreme weather in California and Texas than it is California. Didn't want to forget the 2 doves. My doves in California, I could bring them in and they were in the house and sit on my lap. I don't spend as much time with these doves, so they're a little bit more shy. Not as tame as the ones I had in California, which I used to bring in the house a lot. So diagnosis, what are we looking for? You need to constantly be checking on the health of your pet. Don't wait around for health problems. Number 1. And same, of course, for yourself. Most people do. They just wait around for the health problem, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. And then they go to the doctor, and then they end up on some meds. So, if you don't want to be taking your pet to the vet, then you're going to have to be proactive, and you're going to have to look for these health problems in advance. So, for like cats and dogs, we'll focus on here today. Check their teeth. I always pull up, and their gums. I'm always pulling up their gums like I'm petting them, and I'll just pull up their gums and look at their gums. And the gums are muscles. There's like muscles without skin. Same for adults. And if they're receding too much, that's not good. It doesn't happen much with these carnivorous animals getting all this animal protein and raw food. But with adults, it generally means a low protein diet. But what I'm looking for in animals is redness, and particularly pink around the edges. And definitely bleeding gums is a real heavy concern, because that's all has to do with the muscles. And even I'll press against the gums, and you got to look for abscess, sores, sore spots. So you got to check both sides and up and down, because you're looking for any abscess. I mean, an animal could have like a big abscess inside of his gum, and you won't even know about it. But sometimes you got to observe them too. I would say that's the first thing to do to diagnose animals, to observe them. And I sit outside in the back of my ranch next to my little waterfall when the sun goes down, and the cats come over and sit next to me. The chickens will come around me looking for food. The horse will even come. They all come by because I'm feeding them all the time. But I'm observing them. I'm watching how much they scratch, where they scratch. I'm looking at them if they're, they're uncomfortable or anything funny, like rolling on their back, itching their back too much, or keep scratching the same spot, or kind of digging at something with their teeth. So a lot of times when people think I'm just lying in the back of my ranch, relaxing, I'm actually observing my animals, because I don't have a lot of time to observe them slowly at other times. And it's very relaxing, of course, to be watching your chickens and your ducks. And it's very relaxing. It's very peaceful. So you see the string moving there? That's a kitten down there grabbing that string. So observe your animals. Don't just play with them, but observe them. But we go back to the gums. Check the gums. If you see a pink red lines around their teeth, and if you press on it and it bothers them, then you got inflamed muscles. And of course, treatment is a whole nother major subject in treating your animals. But usually I'll add more. If there's inflammation in the muscles, I'll add more fish oil. And I also start mixing wheatgrass and turmeric together and putting it in their food, and starting to use a lot of fish oil to get that inflammation down. But you have to really look at the whole diet situation here first. You don't want to give them an inflammatory diet from day one. But next, the teeth. Make sure they're not loose, and make sure they're sharp. Oh, if you got a loose tooth, you got a big problem. This is not good. And I do brush my dog's teeth. I didn't bring the little natural dog brushing thing that I have. I probably only do it once a year. But I'm looking at the plaque building up on the teeth. I'm pressing on the teeth. And, at first animals don't really like it, but, I start to do it when they're young, when they're kittens, and when they're puppies, and they do it. Even the horse. I mean, I grab him and pull up his lips, because I'm looking again at his teeth. I don't want to see a cracked tooth. I don't want to see too much yellow plaque there. And I definitely looking for the inflammation. A horse, he doesn't have any inflammation, but sometimes I can see the other animals. So, and then the tongue is just like with humans, the tongue. And it's a little tricky, grabbing that horse and pulling open his mouth and looking at that tongue. But generally, if you feed them, and then, the horse, the animals have to get used to you looking in their mouth. It can take a long time, but if you start it while they're young, they just kind of get used to it. Now, most animals like you to look at their hair and their skin. They don't want you just petting them and itching them. They want you in there looking around for bugs and sores. And when I observe them, I observe where they're itching, or particularly if they're gnawing at something, their tail, or then that's the area I want to look at. I usually put like a little head flashlight on it. Then I dig around in there and I look under the hair, and I'm looking for fleas. We're going to talk about getting rid of those, and we're going to talk about, and then skin problems, rashes, a big problem. Cats and dogs, and it can be heat rash, it can be flea infestation, it could be parasites, worms, any of so. And you can see if you got the rash on the belly, it's probably like worms. If you got a rash on the back and the spine, it's probably fleas. And if you got little patches all over the place, it's probably heat rash. So, I mean, the treatments are all very different here. But first, you have to diagnose it. For the fleas, I use dietary earth. I didn't bring the whole box because I buy it by 5 pounds, and that's it. Dietary earth. I buy a big 5-pound box. There's a price there too, $16.50. It's real cheap. A lot cheaper buying 5-pound box. And I put that in the chicken coop. When I put in new straw, I put dietary earth all over the place. I throw it all on the ground where the ducks sleep, and then I rub the bellies and the back of the cats. I rub it on the dog. I just put it everywhere. And in the winter time where the dog sleeps, I put it on the bed. I mean, I go through a 5-pound bag in a year. And even I put it around the door of the house to keep away bugs and scorpions. So, and that keeps the bugs and the scorpions and the flies off of their bedding. Very essential, and just really effective for fleas. Fleas, of course, is one of your biggest concerns. But let me just say, if you have a healthy dog, you don't have fleas. And even people, pet my dog and I go, oh, he doesn't even have any fleas. Well, healthy animals don't really have any fleas. You'll see them crawling over their body, but you don't need to panic. It's only when you start to see them burrowing in and things like that where you need to worry too much about fleas. You don't need to over panic. And I almost never have pulled ticks off my dog, but I have. But that's when you got the animal like a cat. Here we have a little kitten right here. This is not a little kitten. This is called Favorite Kitten, Favorite Kitty. I put a collar on this one because I want to keep it. And when people come, I don't want to give it away by mistake. So I call this cat Favorite Kitty. That's its name, Favorite Kitty. Because like I said, I got a lot of cats. So you have to know which ones. This is my favorite. Some of them don't even have names because I'm going to be giving them away. But so you always should be checking them. Well, I could have done it right there. You just look at their hair. Here you go, kitty. When you're petting them, be looking. Look around. And then here, let's see here. Let's look at their teeth. See? The teeth, the gums. And then look in the ears. Pull the ear back. Look in the ears. See, this is a young cat. He ain't used to it yet. But, and then, he did have some sores. This cat had some sores on the back of his neck. He must have got scratched. So I put like some little I have a healing ghee. It's a little ointment with ghee that's called healing ghee, Jadiyati Grita, we call it in Ayurveda. And I use that on all the wounds and the sores of any cat. And so when I'm not really petting, I'm actually looking for feeling. I'm feeling for bumps and sores and ticks and anything. And particularly where they're white, I try to look for fleas, moving the hair back. Keep looking and look in the ears and just look for problems, even the eyes. You don't want to see pus in the eyes. You have to just be checking all the time. And of course, cats, animals, they need a lot of love. So, you got 10 cats. I got to pet each one a little bit every day. So very important. That's the first thing I wanted to cover was diagnosis. Observe the animal, check the hair, check the teeth, and the hair should be a little shiny. And a lot of people see my dog and say, wow, he's got such a great coat. So shiny. And that's very important. And the hair shouldn't fall out too much. If the hair is just falling out too much, except maybe in the early spring and the summer, you're going to see them all shed a little bit. But you shouldn't have so much hair falling out. And the hair should be it should have a little shine to it. And when it doesn't, that is usually not enough fat in the diet. We're going to talk about that. It's one of the biggest mistakes people make with animals is not give them enough oil and fat in the diet, particularly if you're giving them this dry food. And a lot of times I look at even when I go to people's houses, they think I'm petting their dog and I'm like looking for problems. It's just my nature. And the animals, they know it. They can sense this guy's checking me out here. You're just petting. He's looking. And then right away I can find like a dry, not even inflamed or anything, but just really dry, flaky skin on the back. And then I try to pull some of the hair out and it's coming out real easy. There's no shine in the hair. I can tell the client right then, you're not giving this animal enough oil and fat in the diet. I give a lot of oil I give sunflower oil in the summertime, in the wintertime to my dog. But I put fish oil both for a cat and the dog, and I use ghee. That's right. Just like I tell all my patients, ghee. Now, I don't give them the expensive organic ghee. I have to confess, I buy a big old can of Indian ghee, and I can just scoop it off, and then I mix it in with their dry food. So that's very important. Keep an eye on their hair, their skin, even their nails. And sometimes I even get put them on their back and look at their paws. Now the horse, all those things I said apply, but you also now have hoofs and they also get the kind of hoof fungus. But, I'm cleaning. You have to keep cleaning the horse's hoofs. Now, people say, oh, what about horseshoe? And I never horseshoed my horse. I did cut his nails sometimes, but if you ride him enough, particularly on a street, it wears down his nails. But I have had to trim them before if I don't ride them enough. But mostly I've got to keep them clean so they don't get this fungus inside of the frog. There's a frog, they call it the frog inside there, and that can get really bad if you're not keeping an eye on it. And also they can get some like yeast overgrowth, bacteria in the back of their hoofs. So, you just have to get used to looking. I probably only check my horse once a month, but if it's rainy outside and he's walking around in mud and everything like that, that's the time they can get these type of yeast infections and stuff on their hoofs, and it starts to get like hoof rot and things like that. So a horse is a little different. And chickens and the doves, again, you got to check under their wings, look under their wings. Like I get the dove, I take the dove when I go, I have a dove coop with my 2 doves in it. And I just kind of pick them up and I just lift up their wings and look under their wings, because they can get like a fungus underneath their wings. And I've treated that before too. So with aloe vera, I was putting aloe vera on it. And I've had cats that had got scratched by another cat and they got this big infection. And one time, one cat, I didn't catch it fast enough, which is a big mistake. And he had a big, giant, swolled up thing. I was so shocked when I found it. I felt bad that I wasn't checking this cat more carefully. But, I put castor oil on it every day. And then it finally broke and all this pus came out. And then I had to clean it twice a day. I had to quarantine the cat in my bathroom for probably weeks, man. It was a long time. I was going in there cleaning it out because I couldn't have the cat running around. I had to and try to catch it, but eventually healed up. But you have to be prepared for that. So we'll move on now to diet, but first diagnose. And tongue too. You want a nice pink tongue. If you see a big film over the tongue, the animal could be constipated, having colic. Now, my horse, he has fallen over about a couple times in my 18 years I've had him and had colic where they're lying down and they could die from that. And it really, of course, freaks you out. You have to stay calm. And he's lying down, not getting up, and I have to press it out with my knee. And, if he didn't get up fast enough, I would have given him an enema. I've given my dog an enema when he was a puppy. He was chewing on, I got some kind of bone or something I bought for him. And apparently, I think he just chewed it on it too much and he got constipated and he wasn't eating all day long. And I was observing him, but the second day he wasn't eating. And then he was just looking there dead. He wasn't moving. My kid was crying and some patients were there and they're, oh, call the vet, call the vet. Everybody was freaking out. And I got my enema bag out, some triphala in it. It's a type of herb we use to put in a colon, and shook it up, put that hose right in his rectum and pushed in a good quart of water. And then I started massaging the whole abdominal area, because I could feel it was really tight. That's how you can tell. You can feel they've been blocked up. It feels hard and round, and it's like, uh-oh. And you just start massaging that. For the horse, I've done it with my knee. I massage his knee, and then I run him around. You can't let him lie down. I've even given enemas to a baby kittens before, because these chickens, I've never done to a chicken, but both chickens, puppies, and cats, when they have their first little bowel movement after they can get constipated, it could get stuck, and a lot of times the mother will lick it off. Even baby kittens, chickens, when you first get them, they're probably just a day old. You got to go and get some wet paper towel and just keep wiping their butts every day for a couple of days and making sure that it's not getting stuck. Or they just die in a couple of days. So you have to be proactive and just do them all. Just grab every one and wipe their little butts. And with kittens and puppies, you just check. Keep feeling their abdominal area if it feels big and hard. One time I even saw like a poop just stuck in the butt, and I just pulled it out, and the kitten wasn't moving much. So I got an eyedropper, put a little salt water in it, shot it right in its butt. And with an eyedropper, it was so small, it was only about that big. and that I saved its life, I believe. It did, because that salt water helps break up the fecal matter. You have to be prepared. We're going to talk about that, but let's move on. Number 2, diet. The most important thing in taking care of your pet, hands down. And this is where most people blow it. First of all, don't buy any name brand popular cat foods or diet. If you dog foods. If you know their name and they're big, a lot of the big companies, they start with P. I'm not going to name these companies, but if they're big names and they're advertising on TV, forget them. You have to go to a pet store. There's the horse, where a pet store where no, don't buy your cat and dog food in the supermarket. Never do that. Go to the pet store where you can have a broader choice, where you can just go in and say, give me the best cat food you have, the most natural, if you don't know what brand to get. And don't only feed them dry food. That's why I've even watched shows and videos and other vets talking the main cause of cancer and health problems for cat is cheap cat food, brand name cat food, and not giving them real meat for the dog and the cat. Don't try to, for my vegan friends, your cat and dog are not vegan. So just scratch that off your mind. They're carnivores. Look at their teeth. You need to give them meat. Now, my cats, I give them tuna. Can't just buy cans of tuna in Trader Joe's. And I give them that. And I do give them some quality cat food. And I give them some dry food. Now, I know I'm anti-dry food, but I always put oil or ghee on it. And same for the dog. Here's now, the only dry food I've been giving my cat and dogs is this company here. And this is for the cat. And this one. And I even changed from one to another. I don't want them eating only the same meat all the time. So this one's like fish. And my dog, when he was young, he loved the bison. But now he's older, I don't want him having too much. I give him more fish. The fish one now, the same as the cat. The cat, there's a couple. There's like fish and chicken. This one's got venison in it and salmon, but it's all from wild animals. And it's a good product, but just that alone is never a good idea. I give him both. And the dog, I give him like big chunks of meat. But now he's gotten a little older. His gums were getting a little red, and he's kind of was starting to put on a little weight. So I moved him over to canned chicken. I give him chicken, some chicken meat. And then I give him this same company here, but dry. And then on top of that, for the dog, I add ghee in the summer because ghee is cooling, and then sunflower oil in the winter. You don't want to give olive oil to a dog or a cat. It's too spicy. It's either sunflower oil, but the best is ghee or butter. Even the baby kittens, I give them butter. But also I buy these big things of salmon oil. Oh yeah, even the dog loves it. So I buy the giant jugs, and I got 2 of these things, and I squirt it all over the dry food. And for the dog too, I'll put a big tablespoon of ghee, a bunch of squirts of this, and then I mix it all in with the dry food, because that's the biggest mistake you can make, is only give them dry food and not enough oil and fat in the diet. Almost every time I visit people and I see their cats and dogs, I'm always telling them, you're not giving this cat enough oil. You got to really heap it in. So I give them the dry food plus the meat, whether it's chicken or tuna or beef. And then on top of that, I give them some raw food, because that's really the best for them. Now, I didn't bring the frozen raw food from the freezer here, but I buy. Here's a kitty right here. Here's a kitty. Yeah. Oh, it's a good kitty. Oh, yeah. There you go. See if you can stay up there, kitty. Yeah, there's a good kitty. So for the cat, for the dog, I buy the frozen raw food. in the pet store. It's frozen. This is very, very important. This is like the vitamins for your cat and dog. It's the liver and the heart of the chicken. For the dog and for the fish, it's the whole fish with the organs dried. This is all their vitamins are going to come from that. They can't live off of just meat and dry food. Now, what's good about the dry food? If you get a good brand, they put probiotics in it. They put some synthetic vitamins in it. So you cover a lot of nutritional bases with the good quality dry food. But you can only get these from a pet store. And if you go in the pet store and say, what's the best dry food you have? They're going to point to this brand, and they sometimes name another brand. They know. You just say, I want the best. It's not going to be cheap. But remember the goal. You never want to take these animals to the vet, and your real goal is not, you don't want to take them to the vet. You never want them sick. And it's the same with you. It's the same with your children. It's easier to be proactive and spend the money on quality food than it is to, take them to the hospital. Now, so the dog I get by the frozen, it's called poppers, or it also comes, and if an animal's sick, I buy the frozen meat and just give the frozen, it's like raw meat with chicken heart or beef and liver. It's got to have the liver. That's where all the vitamins are. And you just give that to them for a couple of days. You can completely revive a cat or a dog if you're just only giving them raw meat. And if you're really good, you can cook the stew for them with meat. And there are some vegetables the animal can have, particularly sweet potato. Sometimes I buy this sweet potato in a can. It's for dogs. It helps their digestion and put it on. You never give an animal cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, the cruciferous family. Never give them anything from the nightshades. That's the worst. Tomatoes, eggplant, bell pepper. And a lot of these foods, they'll put pea in it. Pea is not good for animals. Beans are not good for these carnivores. You want the sweet roots, carrots and sweet potatoes. And in fact, I buy this other brand, and it's like called chunks of beef. It's the real beef. I never buy these pâtés. They're all mushy. That's your first mistake. And when it comes to the second mistake is buy these pâtés, these mushy, soft stuff. No, I've got this chunk of beef and chunk of chicken, and the bone is still in there, but it's been cooked. And same with the chicken. The chicken bones are in there. You can see the chicken bone, but it's been cooked, so it's soft. And they put some vegetables in. That was just a cat knocking something over, because usually I leave these cats out, but I figured for the webinar, I left them in. They just knocked something over. So the raw meat is very important. It's their vitamin. Now, for the cat, I found this new brand here. It's dehydrated, freeze-dried, raw. It's got the raw beef and some bone broth and some whole eggs. Oh, that's another thing. Eggs are really good for animals. And of course, I have the chickens. And some dogs like it raw. Some dogs like it a little cooked. My dog, unfortunately, likes it a little cooked. But I can get hard-boiled eggs, and they like the yolk. And I like the white. I got a lot of chickens, and if I crack 5 or 6 eggs, I just keep one yolk. I don't want that cholesterol getting too high on me, so I can't eat 5 yolks a day. So I give the yolks off to the animals. They like it's really good because it's a nice fat for them. Now I've found that my dog likes them slightly cooked, soft, not raw, not hard boiled, but just slightly cooked. I don't know. Maybe I spoiled him, but that's the way he likes it. So what I do is I steam them. I put the egg in there and hit the steamer, and then I can go by how many minutes on the steamer. I know it will be soft, and then I just crack the whole egg on top of his food when it's a little runny, slightly cooked, and just whip it in. He loves it. Great for him. But anyway, this is the raw veggies that I give the cat. They have stuff for a dog too, where you add the water, but I just get it from the pet store, the real frozen raw. So that's very important. Then on top of that, I'm giving them vitamins all the time. Here's like a little multivitamin for the dog right there. And here's multivitamins for the cats. And on top of that, I'm giving them herbs. A lot of times I give them brewer's yeast. If they get fleas, I get brewer's yeast and just start mixing it in with their food, because brewer's yeast is very high in B vitamins. And it's usually a B vitamin deficiency that leads to, fleas. If you don't want bugs biting you a lot, just increase the B vitamin supplements you take. Like when I'm out camping and stuff, the flies, the mosquitoes don't even bite me. And people are like, unbelievable. That's because I'm getting a lot of nutrients. I'm taking superfoods. I'm taking whole food vitamins. I'm eating good. So, the bugs, for some reason, they like the unhealthy people better. Same for the animals. So brewer's yeast is very good, a B vitamin source. And here, this is kelp. And this was originally, for a dog. I mean, the label's kind of old, but this was for a dog. But I have kelp. I just kept the container. But now I mix it with, that's a wheat germ. No, not wheat germ. Wheat germ oil is another thing I use sometimes. This is wheat grass. Wheat grass. It's a little sweet, and turmeric. I give it to the dog. I also give herbs. I have some herbal formulas that I make. I give the dogs Brahmi ghee. Particularly, I've made formulas for animals to calm them down, help them sleep. And I've treated 1 or 2 cases of parvo where the dog was dying, and I made some herbs and gave it to him, and the dog lived. So there's been some cases where I did treat animals that were in serious health conditions with herbs. But I've been given this wheatgrass. Wheatgrass is good. It's anti-inflammatory, very nutritious. So you got wheatgrass, you got barley grass, you've got brewer's yeast, nutritional yeast. These are all things you can add. And now I know these are synthetic vitamins, but I don't really give them whole food vitamins, but that I give them these synthetic vitamins. So it's really layers. And somebody, one of my staff was saying, they were saying, boy, your kittens are growing so fast. And they all got little big bellies down there. Oh, I give them milk too. I give the cat and the dog milk. Here we go. Here's another kitty. And then I give the dogs and cats milk, particularly the kittens. So I buy raw milk for them, and I give every day. But you never should give milk on a cold, rainy day because it's too cooling. So there's a few caveats all the time. But back to the food and the nutrition. That is the most important thing you can do. Never give these animals cheap food. Now, if I just want to add on top of that, here's electrolytes, which, I'm giving in all their water. The horse, the chickens, the cats, the dogs. In this hot weather, I go put this apple flavor electrolytes in all of their water. I just did it just now. When I went to go get it, I went around, I put some in the water feeder for the birds. I put some water in the horse, and I have one out there by the spigot because the spigot drips a little bit. So I make it drip in a bowl, catch the drips. So they have a kind of a communal bowl out there, which mostly the dog uses. And I put it in there. So I put it all over the place during the summertime. And in the wintertime, more oil, more fat. And in the summertime, electrolytes, if it's hot. Because in the wintertime, you want them having a thick coat and putting on weight to protect themselves. And a horse, of course, is a whole nother. I give all kinds of supplements to my horse. I mean, I buy whole jugs of wheat germ oil and just pour it in his food in the wintertime. And I give him whole pounds of brewer yeast. I give all kinds of supplements to the horse, but never been to a vet one time, my horse. None of my animals have ever been to the vet. The dog, I think he's 6, 7 years old. He's never been to the vet. I never took him. I've had cats 15 years, never took him to the vet. I had the horse 20 years. All my neighbors are shocked I never took him to the vet. One more tip when we're talking about vets. Don't give them any shots. That's probably the worst thing you could ever do for your animals is go give them all these shots, vaccines. This is a disaster. These vaccines are neurotoxins, and then they got brain damage. It's just same with humans. If you take these neurotoxin shots because they got heavy metals in them, they're never going to be the same. I can look in the eyes of a dog or a cat and I can tell if he's had vaccines or not. Because if you've ever had an animal and you saw him, he's all sharp and playful and looking at you and bright-eyed like these guys. And then after you give them the vax, you can look in their eyes and they're a little duller. That's because you just gave them a little mini brain damage from those vaccines that you just gave them. So that's the first thing. In fact, I got two cats here because I left my other cats in California with my son, and I love cats. So I got these two female cats, and I had to go online and look for some free cats. And I called for the two cats. I said, well, these were kind of wild cats. We found them underneath our house. Those are the two surviving kittens. The other two, we don't know what happened to them. So we brought these two kittens in, and they said, oh, but sorry, sir. We haven't given them any shots or vaccines. I said, I'm coming right over. And that's how I picked them right there. No shots, no vaccines, because some of these people, they'll give away animal. Oh, don't worry, we give them all the shots. Forget it. I don't even want this animal. Now, I do love to help animals, but I don't want to be taking these animals from the pound because they got the most shots than everybody. They've been over-vaccinated. So I don't give them any shots at all. This is the main secret right there. Don't take them to the vet and give them shots. That's because that's just going to cause you more health problems. And like I said, I've had animals. I had cats 15, 16, 17 years. I've had dogs, mini dogs. And now I have my horse almost 20 years. We never give them any vaccines or any shots, because if they're healthy, you don't have all these problems in the first place. It's only the unhealthy animal that's going to be more susceptible to disease and infection. Okay, kitty, you can go down. Okay, this guy's right back again. I just climbed up my leg like I'm a tree. See one, and they all need a little love. You got to give them a little love every day, little love, and every day. They all need a little love and attention. Even the horse, he likes attention too. Definitely the dog. Oh my God. You have to play with them. You got to exercise. Lucky I'm on property, so they're all running around. They got a lot of free space to go. The dog has room to run. The horse has got a pasture out in the front, not very big. It's only about an acre, but he's got grass. So he eats his grass. And you want diversity of food. You can't keep giving them the same thing all the time. They're not going to get a wide enough nutrients. Oh, but as I was saying earlier, is one of my staff said, all your little kittens are so plumpy. And I said that because these were obviously smaller. These are about 4 months old now. I got about 5 or 6 of them left after the litter of 9. And they're all got little bellies and they're all plumpy. And then one of the staff said, that's because they got like a buffet. That's right. I had like tuna, dry food with the salmon oil on it, milk. And then I'm even giving them raw food on top. So it was like a buffet, and they were just eating. Now, when they get older, you can cut back a little bit and start controlling the food, particularly if they're gaining weight. But mostly the people they'll gain weight if people only give them dry food, even good dry food. You gotta limit the dry food by letting them fill up on the meat, which they need. And then the last thing we need to cover here is you need to be prepared for a health problem. That's the other thing. You got to be prepared. First, you got to be observing, diagnosing, checking their hair, their skin. And I forgot, you got to check their poop. Like the other day, I had a cat and he pooped and in the kitty litter because he was still not going outside. I have a cat door and a cat window so they can go out anytime. But when they're young, I keep them in the kitchen, and he pooped. And it was blood in it. After that, the cats, I stopped giving them dry food, started putting more oil, giving them more oil, mixing it right in with their food until that bleeding went away. Because this bleeding in the colon is like ulceration of the colon, very serious. And it's coming from the dry food. It's coming from dryness. It's very common. The dry is the biggest problem you have with these animals. It's not enough oil, not enough fat, too much dry food. Then their skin comes dry. Their stools become dry, hard, creates constipation, and then they can get bleeding in the colon. So observing them, observing the poop, even the horse, you're looking for worms, you're looking at the horse. When I pick up the manure, you know, I'm shoveling it. I have a stick and I poke at it. So I'm looking for worms inside. And then I give him some herbs every once in a while. Once a year, I give him a whole jar of parasite herbs, not in one dose. I give him like a tablespoon at a time. Now, these parasite herbs are so strong for humans. I usually tell them do like a quarter teaspoon 2 or 3 times a day. But for the horse, I give him a tablespoon, once a day for about a week, and some psyllium husk, and that will clear them right out. But mostly I'm looking at the droppings. Even for the dog, I see the dog out there defecating in the back, and I'll walk out there and see it real quick and poke at it and make sure there's no worms in there. And if there's worms, I'm going to use some natural a dewormer. I mean, here we have one right here on the counter. It's a little natural one right there. There's a company I like that's called Dr. Pet, Mr. Pet, something, Dr. Pet. And he's got a whole bunch of natural drops and things for animals. So you got to have these ready. You can't wait for the problem. And if an animal's really sick, even particularly a bird or a dove, you got to have a heat lamp. And for a cat or a dog that's sick, you got to have a heating pad. So you got to have it. When the birds are sick, or I've had birds that were wounded, that's a whole nother subject, healing wounded birds. But you have to put them in with a heat lamp to keep them extra warm, because if they get cold, they're going to die just from that, hypothermia. So having a heat lamp ready, having a heating pad ready, having a little enema bag ready, having a bunch of these little drops of different types of things. Nowadays, you can go online and you can buy a lot of herbal products for dogs. And my horse, he got a really bad flu a couple years ago because it's pretty cold here. It's freezing. And he's an Arab. He's not used to this cold weather. He does fine in the summer. It's the winter I have to watch out for. I have a blanket I put on him in the wintertime. And I dumped a lot of garlic in his food during the winter. That's right. Summer, I'm using the brewer's yeast to keep the bugs away. And then in this winter, I put a little garlic in the the cat's food. I just buy it by the pound. But the horse, I put in like a couple tablespoons and mix it in with his other feed. And in the wintertime, I give them alfalfa. In the summertime, I give them what's called coastal. It's a type of grass. And so I'm changing it up by the temperature too. I mean, if they're living outside like the horse, you have to change up the food during the winter and the summer. If the weather is very different, like here in Texas, you can't just keep giving them the same food all year. Like I said, in the wintertime, I give them a lot more oil. But you have to be prepared for any issues. I have some homeopathic products that I have sitting aside just in case, for pain or anxiety if I've got a hurt or a wounded animal. And I've got extra gauze. I have a little cream that helps fight infections. It's herbal. So I have a whole herbal first aid kit for humans, but I also have a whole bunch of herbal first aid kit for the animals. And you can buy them in the store. I have like an anti-hoof fungal thing. I even have a bug spray, natural bug spray for horses, which is mostly just essential oils and stuff. But it's sometimes easier to buy it. But I'm always looking at the ingredients, and there's a few companies out there selling herbal products for animals. And, I observe what they have, and sometimes a lot of these herbs I have. But garlic is a great trick in the wintertime to put in their food. Great trick. That's why the horse. But as I was saying, a couple of years ago, my horse did get a really bad infection. I mean, yellow snot was pouring out. I mean, he was coughing. It was freezing below zero at night. And you can't bring him inside like the dog or a cat. I already had the jacket on him. I threw a heating thing up above him. I must have 3 or 4 of these heat lamps because I have to put them in with the chicken coop, one in the chicken coop. I have to put one for the doves. And then I have another one, which I'll use even in the house. And these have timers on them, not timers, temperature gauge. So when the temperature gets too low, they turn on, they turn off. You can't leave these things on all the time. It could get too hot. So you have to have these little temperature things that go with them. But then I gave him a whole jar of my Ayurvedic Pitta immune formula in like 3 days. I was pretty worried. He never had a cold this bad. And that was a couple of years ago. But the last year, he didn't catch a cold at all the whole winter. But I was given more garlic, and I think I was proactive. I was putting my immune formulas, Ayurvedic immune formula Pitta. I gave him the Pitta one because the Pitta one is a more mild, doesn't have any hot spices in it. I gave him a whole jar in 3 days, and it was gone. I had some goats before too, and goats, and he got the goats got the bad runny nose and infection, and I took echinacea right out of my herb room and went out there to eat it right out of my hand because the goats, they eat everything. So I found, wow, goat is easy to give herbs to because they'll just eat them. They're not picky. Now, cats, if I want to give them herbs, I mix it up with the ghee. See this cat, he keeps jumping up here. This cat is called Annoying Cat. Annoying Cat. Usually he gets locked out for webinars because he keeps jumping up on top of me. See, watch, I toss him down and he's going to come right back. What? He's back again. And he's crawling up my leg with his claws, by the way. I can't wear short pants in the house because the cats are climbing up my legs, and they'll climb right up my legs with their claws until they learn. And when they're young, you just have to let them do it. But so I hope that gave you a lot of tips and advice. You have to really be on it. I would say a lot of the same things apply even for children, babies who are not talking. Observe, check, check the stools, how many times they're going, the skin, the hair, the eyes, the teeth, because it's the same. They're not communicating with you. So you have to be proactive. And then food, the right nutrition, diverse food. Don't just buy some cheap, food for your child either. It's the same, almost for a baby and animals, very similar. They're both very sensitive. They're not talking to you, and they're 100% dependent on what you feed them, as they're not teenagers yet out there buying their own food. An animal, he's completely restricted by what you have. Now, the more natural it is, the better. Like my horses, a horse, they can go eat some grass. The dog, I'm giving him, even my chickens, I give him always organic food for the chickens because I'm eating the eggs, but I also give them chicken scratch. I give them my chickens lettuce. When I go shopping, I buy like 10 heads of lettuce. And every day I give the chicken and duck some lettuce. I buy these big bags of carrots, 2 5-pound bags of carrots for the horse. And then for the dog, I'll get some bones, some beef bones and things like that. And I'll give the cats, some of my fish. So you should try to give them as natural as you can and diverse. And then you avoid a lot of health problems. And you don't want to have to take them to the vet. And I would never give any animals a shot. And I've never, and I would never put them down. I've had animals that were 15 years old and dying, and I just fed them and pet them until they stopped eating, and they just literally died in my arms. And I just let them go. I mean, I'm not going to go take them in and euthanize them and kill them. No, I'm not going to do that. I just let them stay at home, let them have a peaceful death. I've had ducks, chickens, kittens, all die on me, and you just have to be there and comfort them and let it happen and let it be as peaceful as possible. Once they're old, or sometimes with an animal, they were attacked by a raccoon or something, and there's not much you can do. But I've saved some. I've had ducks that were, pretty badly wounded and lived. But that's very tricky. Baby ducks. And of course, when the chickens are born, I have to remove them and put them in a little heating place, maintain the temperature. Oh, it's very tricky. It's easier if the mother does it. But that's another story. But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you learned here. I hope you learned how to take better care of your animals and love them more, feed them better, be more proactive, and whatever you do, don't give them the cheap food from the supermarket. You got to go to the pet store, or better off, the feed store. The feed stores, the guys in the feed stores, they know the tricks, and they have all the good foods. So I never buy much for them in the store, except maybe some tuna and some fish and some beef chunks. But, after that, I get everything from the feed store. Okay. Wish you the best. Unfortunately, I don't. People keep asking me to treat their animals. I don't treat animals professionally. I'm just sharing with my many years of experience. I'm in my early 60s, and I've had animals since I was a child, so I do have a lot of experience. And people, the neighbors and people at the ranch, of course, they think I'm a vet because they see me treating their animals, but I don't do it professionally. So please don't call me asking to treat your animal. And I hope, and if when people do in the future, I'm going to send them a link to this podcast to give them plenty of ideas. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you the best of health and happiness. And we don't really have any herbs to talk about today, but we do want to thank our sponsor, Herbman Teas. Keep it natural, herbmanteas.com. And there are some products on there that you could give an animal, like the immune formula peptide. This could be given to an animal. And but anyway, thank you very much. And I hope you learned. And I love animals. And I hope I helped some animals to live a healthier life once their owner, make some changes to their diet and their nutrition and their care. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you all.